Hey everyone, welcome back to the Charles Oliveira fan club for another banger video. In today's video, I'm going to go over my top 30 UFC fighters of all time. This is going to be the best GOAT list on MMA YouTube, right? Like, there have been some pretty atrocious GOAT lists, but this is not one of them, right? This is going to be the best GOAT list on YouTube. Bunkbed requested this video, so shout out to Bunkbed. He made a top 100 UFC fighters of all time. I thought this video was a lot of work. So yeah, go subscribe to him. He deserves it. I'll link his channel in the description below. But anyway, my GOAT list, my criteria, number one is going to be resume, right? Like, who have you beat? How good are the people have you beat? And did you beat a good version of that fighter? Did you beat a washed version of that fighter, or did you beat that fighter in their prime, right? So I think that should count as well. Then I have dominance, right? Like, how dominantly are you winning fights? Are you winning fights easily, or are you getting a dodgy split decision in like every fight? And then after that, I do have title wins. I know some people don't like to count title wins, but to be a UFC undisputed champion means that you're the best fighter in your division. And I think the more title defenses you have, the longer you've been the best fighter in your division for. So I think that should count towards the GOAT list. And lastly, I have skill, right? Like, you're just a power merchant, or were you actually well-rounded, and did you actually have skill? But anyway, enough of me yapping. Let's get to the GOAT list. Kicking us off at 30, we have Merab Dvalishvili. He is the current bantamweight champion. So doesn't have any title defenses, but I think his resume is what really puts him on this list. Like, Peter dominantly, Sean O'Malley dominantly, Henry Cejudo, Jose Aldo, and Moraes. So very solid resume from Merab. I think people do underrate him quite a lot. He beat a lot of former champions there, 4 former champions, and he is the current bantamweight champion. Would have been the bantamweight champion earlier if it wasn't for Aljo. Aljo was his friend, didn't want to fight Aljo. But yeah, so, if he did win the title earlier, I would have him higher, but he did win the title a little bit later, so got to put him back a little bit. But anyway, next fighter. At number 29, I have Robert Whittaker. If it wasn't for Adesanya, he'd probably have 6 or 7 title defenses, but I mean, even after he lost the belt, he still cleared out the division. If we look at his wins here, Costa, Vittori, Gastelum, Cannonier, Till, Romero twice, very good, Brunson, and Tavares. So, yeah, that's basically the whole middleweight division. And he was champion as well, did have 1 title defense. And yeah, pretty much only lost 3 guys. Lost to Adesanya. First one, was a knockout. But the second time he lost to Adesanya, it was a pretty close decision. Obviously, lost to Dricus, who's the current champion, and he lost to Khamzat Chimaev, which is not a bad loss. Khamzat Chimaev is very good. So, Whittaker, not a lot of losses at middleweight, and a pretty good middleweight resume, also was champion, so I have him at 29. At the number 28 spot, I have Cain Velasquez. I honestly could have put him higher, but I just think these other guys on this list are just slightly better than him. But yeah, 2-time heavyweight champion with 2 defenses. Like, having title defenses at all at heavyweight is pretty impressive, because, guys just hit with a different power there. But yeah, like, he does have some very good wins. Obviously, Nogueira beat prime Brock Lesnar, I'd say, JDS twice, and he also beat Antonio Silva. So, some solid wins from Cain Velasquez, and he was also a monster in his prime, dude. He was very, very good mixed martial artist, and yeah, I have him at 28. On to number 27. At 27, I have BJ Penn. I honestly, I don't know. I'm going to say this about every guy, but I could have put him higher. It's just, he has a lot of losses. 14 losses and 16 wins. Not a great record. Like, you only have 2 more wins than you do losses. So, kind of rough for BJ Penn, but still, he was a 2-division champion, had 3 defenses at lightweight, and he beat some pretty good guys. Matt Serra, Matt Hughes, Jens Pulver, Sean Shutt, and Kenny Florian. So, very good wins, very good stuff from BJ Penn. Yeah, it's just his losses that hold him back, man. If he had less losses, I would put him a lot higher, but for now, he does have to go down here. Anyway, on to number 26. At number 26, I have Ilia Topuria. Now, this is a tough one, because some people think he should be top 15, and some people think he shouldn't be in the top 30. I think you do have to put him top 30 for beating Volk and Holloway back-to-back and beating them in dominant fashion, knocking them out. Like, No one had ever beat Volkanovski at featherweight. Ilia Topuria first beat him at featherweight. No one had ever knocked out Max Holloway. Ilia Topuria does it in 3 rounds. Like, that's just insane. And back-to-back wins at that. Like, that's just crazy, man. I think you gotta recognize that, put him on this list. A lot of people are putting him, like, top 15 all time. I think they're ranking him too much based on potential and probably recency bias as well. Like, I think Topuria has a decent chance at becoming the GOAT of the sport. He's undefeated and looks to be pretty unbeatable. So, Topuria, very, very good. Max and Volk, some amazing wins back to back. And I think that's what really puts him on this list. But anyway, on to number 25. Cracking in the top 25, we have TJ Dillashaw. He does have 3 defenses at bantamweight, which is pretty impressive, and has some pretty good wins as well. Beat Corey Sandhagen, Cody Garbrandt twice, Lineker, and Renan Barão twice. The Renan Barão wins are really what put him up here. I mean, Renan Barão was like pound for pound number 1 when TJ Dillashaw beat him, so some very good stuff from TJ Dillashaw there. And yeah, I think, solid resume, 2-time battleweight champion with 3 defenses. It's very solid from TJ Dillashaw. On to number 24. At number 24, I have Frankie Edgar. People need to start giving this dude more respect. People need to start giving Frankie Edgar more respect. I think you got to have him top 25. I mean, he was rarely undersized at lightweight, and he managed to become champion, which is already impressive. And he managed to defend the belt 3 times. That's a record for defending the belt. So good on Frankie Edgar for that, man. I think people need to give him more credit for that. And then, after lightweight, he went down to featherweight and had a pretty good run at featherweight. Like, if you look at his resume, he has good names at both divisions, Beat Cub Swanson twice, beat Yair Rodriguez, Chad Mendes, Uriah Faber, BJ Penn 3 times. That's a pretty big one, BJ Penn 3 times. Beat Charles Oliveira, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, it was before Oliveira won his run, but still, good stuff. Beat Gray Maynard, beat Sean Sherk, and beat Jeremy Stephens.
Who the fuck is that guy?
So yeah, some pretty good stuff from Frankie Edgar. I think you gotta recognize the fact that he fought at 2 divisions and was pretty successful at 2 divisions. Obviously, lightweight champion, 3 defenses, and fought for the title at featherweight, beat some pretty good guys at featherweight. So I think we got to start giving Frankie Edgar more respect. He has a really good resume, and he's a really impressive fighter. On to number 23. At number 23, this is going to be a controversial one. I have Dustin Poirier. Now, you might be thinking, he didn't win a belt. You're right. He didn't win an undisputed belt, but I think his resume is just that good. I mean, look at his resume, dude. Conor McGregor twice. Conor McGregor's former champion, obviously. Eddie Alvarez, pretty much Eddie Alvarez twice. The first time Eddie Alvarez just threw illegal shots and it was a no contest. But, up till Alvarez threw the illegal shots, Poirier was winning. Beat Justin Gaethje, beat Michael Chandler, beat Dan Hooker, beat Holloway twice. And, one of those was, Holloway on his win streak. Poirier's the one who shattered Max Holloway's win streak. Beat Anthony Pettis, former champion, beat Jim Miller, and beat Bobby Green. So, I think his resume is just very, very good, and I think you gotta have him up there for that. I think his resume, one of the best at lightweight. Seriously, dude. I think, if he won an undisputed belt, he would be a lot higher, so much higher. But yeah, for now, I have him at 23. A lot of people, some people don't even have him in their top 30. I think you gotta have Poirier top 25. I mean, just look at his resume, dude. Look at his resume. And, some people even put him top 20. I respect the take, but I think, and to be top 20, you just have to win an undisputed belt. So, yeah, that's where I have Poirier. On to number 22. At number 22, I have Dominic Cruz, consensus bantamweight GOAT. I agree with that. I think he is the bantamweight GOAT. Has 3 title defenses, which is the most in the division, and has some pretty good wins as well. Demetrius Johnson, obviously, great win. It's a win that ages well. He didn't beat a prime DJ, so that's why I don't have him higher. He beat Uriah Faber twice. That's very good. Beat TJ Dillashaw, great win as well, and also beat Joseph Benavidez twice. I think that was in WEC. I don't know. I don't know if I don't really count like stuff you did in other promotions too much, but like if it's really impressive, I'll count it, I guess. But yeah, also doesn't really have a lot of losses. You know, pretty much only lost to Garbrandt, Faber, and Cheeto. The Cheeto win is a little bit iffy, but you know, lost to mostly good fighters and doesn't have a lot of losses. So, I rate Dominic Cruz. I think you got to put him in your top 25. Some people, honestly, you could put him top 20. But I have him top 25. I just think these other guys on the list are better. But anyway, on to number 21. Number 21, we have Randy Couture, the first two-division champion in the UFC. Didn't have any defenses, but still impressive. You know, a light heavyweight champion and a heavyweight champion. And he also has some pretty solid wins. You know, Mark Coleman, Tim Sylvia, Vitor Belfort twice, Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, Kevin Randleman. So, some pretty good wins for Randy Couture. And, you know, being a two-division champ does elevate your status on this list quite a bit. So, that's why I have Randy Couture here. On to number 20. Breaking the top 20 is Chuck Liddell, light heavyweight champion with 4 defenses, quite a bit of defenses. So, good on Chuck Liddell for that. And really good resume as well. Kevin Randleman, Vitor Belfort, Alistair Overeem, Tito Ortiz twice, Randy Couture twice, and Vanderlei Silva. So there's some really good wins, especially the Couture wins. Then that's what's putting up here, as well as 4 title defenses at light heavyweight. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, I have Chuck Liddell at 20, on to number 19. At 19, I have Francis Ngannou, dude. People gotta start giving this guy more respect. He does only have 1 defense at heavyweight, you know. But I still think he's solid, you know. Gone was his defense, right? Beat Stipe, like absolutely schooled Stipe in the first round, and then flatlined him in the second. Beat JDS, former champion. Cain Velasquez, former champion. Curtis Blades twice. Arlovsky, former champion. And Alistair Overeem is also a great win. So, even though he doesn't have a lot of title wins, I still think you gotta respect him for beating all those former champions. And even now, you know, he's just won the belt at PFL. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm probably not going to count that here too much. But, you know, good on Francis for doing that. And, you know, Francis in the UFC, very, very good. Only lost to Stipe and Derek Lewis. And Derek Lewis, not the greatest loss to have. But, you know, Derek Lewis is a power merchant. So, it's understandable. But anyway, on to number 18. At number 18, I have Matt Hughes, 2-time welterweight champion with 7 title defenses. Pretty impressive. And he also has a pretty good resume as well. Carlos Newton twice, former champion. Sean Sherk, former champion. Frank Trigg, Royce Gracie, BJ Penn, former champion. GSP, you'll see GSP a lot higher on this list. And he also beat Matt Serra. So that GSP win is what puts him in the top 20. And also the 7 title defenses. That's pretty impressive to have at welterweight. But yeah, Matt Hughes, very good champion, very good fighter. On to number 17. At 17, I have Henry Cejudo, double champion, defended both belts, so that in itself is already pretty good. And has some pretty good wins as well. You know, beat Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes, TJ Dillashaw, and Demetrius Johnson. Now, some of you might think he's higher, and I understand, you know, double champ, of course, but, like, you know, the DJ win was controversial. That was a very close decision. I'd lean it slightly to DJ, if I'm being honest, but it could have gone either way, to be fair. And then also TJ Dillashaw, like, that was TJ Dillashaw, 125 pounds, you know. TJ Dillashaw looked like a freaking corpse, so I don't count that too highly. Mariah's decent win, and Cruz is probably, like, his best win. And yeah, so some of you may have him higher because he's double champ. I understand that, but I think, you know, looking at his resume, you know, solid resume. But I think, you know, the way he beat people and, like, the fashion in which he did it, not that impressive. Like, okay, don't get me wrong. Doing that against DJ is impressive, obviously. Doing that against Cruz is impressive. But I feel like, you know, it's pretty easy to beat a half-dead TJ Dillashaw at flyweight. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really count that too much. Also, like, he just lacks quantity. Like, if he beat more guys, I'd put him higher. But, you know, for now, he's at 17. But anyway, next fighter. At number 16, I have Charles Oliveira. Now, some of you might say this is too high, but Charles has a freaking stacked resume, dude. Dustin Poirier, a very good version of Dustin Poirier, probably the best version of Dustin Poirier in a title fight. Beneil Dariush, when Beneil Dariush was on his streak, Oliveira was the underdog in that fight. Beat Justin Gaethje, good version of Gaethje as well. Beat Michael Chandler twice, like the first time he beat Chandler, Chandler was like the up and coming guy in the division. He was the guy who was going to beat Khabib. Oh, that sounds so stupid now, but anyway, yeah. And Oliveira finished him in 2 rounds. Did struggle in that fight, but still finished him in 2 rounds. And then in the most recent fight, the second fight, obviously I did do a breakdown on that, so go check that out. It'll be in the description below. But yeah, he absolutely dominated Michael Chandler, and no one expected him to do that, so that's pretty impressive. Also beat a pretty decent version of Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson was not washed yet. He only lost 1 fight to Justin Gaethje at the time that Charles fought him. Also beat Kevin Lee, pretty good win, and also Jim Miller. So it's a really good lightweight resume. Obviously, champion as well, 2 defenses. If some nerd goes in the comments and says, oh, it technically only has 1 defense, bro, because, he missed weight against Gaethje. It was half a pound, dude. It was half a freaking pound. I'm pretty sure everyone and their mother counts that as a title defense. I count it as title defense. You ask most people, they'll tell you Charles Oliveira has two defenses, right? Everyone counts the Gaethje fight as a defense. So I'm gonna count it as defense on this list. Go cry about it in the comments. But anyway, yeah. Oliveira, very good resume. In contention with Khabib's, right? Like, Khabib does have a decent resume, but I do have Khabib higher than Oliveira because of the losses. Charles does have quite a few losses on his record. Obviously, I don't count losses as much as I count wins, but 10 losses is kind of a lot. And just in the early days of his career, man, when he was at featherweight, he lost a lot of fights. But yeah, he got better, he evolved, 2.0 then 3.0. And yeah, that's Charles Oliveira, man, at 16. Now we move on to the top 15. At the number 15 spot, I have the notorious Conor McGregor. Now, some of you probably going to call me casual in the comments because I have McGregor this high. But I think McGregor's good, Obviously, double champ, first to do it, and has some really good wins, Beat Dustin Poirier, beat Cowboy Cerrone, Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez was good, right? Like, people kind of forget about Alvarez, but Alvarez was good. Beat Nate Diaz. At the time, Nate Diaz was very good. Beat Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo was the reigning defending champion. Like, some people say Aldo was washed. Like, Aldo was not washed, dude. Conor was just very good, and just knocked out the reigning 7 title defense Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo hadn't lost in years before the Conor fight, and Conor just knocked him out in 13 seconds. You ask me, that's pretty impressive. That's not a washed Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo is like still winning fights in 2024. So I don't know why people call that version of Jose Aldo washed. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Also beat Chad Mendes, pretty good win, and also beat Max Holloway. It was early Max Holloway, but it is a win that ages well. So I think Conor McGregor is pretty underrated in terms of resume wise, obviously legacy wise, first double champ. So I think that has to count a lot. And yeah, I've Conor McGregor at 15. If you're gonna go call me a casual in the comments, you do that. You're actually the casual. No, I'm kidding. Obviously. Anyway, on to number 14. At number 14, I have Israel Velas Dogbender Adesanya. I don't like Adesanya, but I gotta give him his credit. 5 defenses middleweight, pretty impressive. Beat Alex Pereira, Rob Whittaker twice, Jared Cannonier, Vittori twice, Costa, Romero, Gastelum, Silva, Brunson, and Tavares. So, cleared out the middleweight division, quite a bit of defenses of the belt, and some quality wins as well. Alex Pereira and Rob Whittaker, probably some of his best wins. Also beat Anderson Silva. It was a washed version of Anderson Silva, but still a win over Silva. So, I got to give him his credit. Also, very, very good striker. He's up there. But yeah, I think, Adesanya is, I wouldn't dispute you if you didn't put him in your top 15. But I think he's top 15. I think he's done enough. He has some really good wins and has defended his belt quite a few times. Also, very skilled fighter. So, I have Adesanya here. Next fighter. At number 13, I have Alex Poatan Pereira, the Shaman man himself. Just freaking... I have him up here because of how, impressive he is, right? Debuted in 2021. Just a year later, less than a year later, middleweight champion, beats Adesanya, who's the reigning champion. Then moves up to light heavyweight and gets 3 defenses of that belt in, freaking 4 seconds, dude. That was actually mad how quickly Alex Pereira got 3 title defenses. It's crazy how fast he did all of this. But yeah, I think he's still pretty good. Has some pretty good wins. Just beat Khalil Roundtree. Obviously beat Adesanya. Beat Yuri twice. Beat Jamal Hill. Beat Blachowicz and beat Strickland. So that's 5 former champions, I think. Yep, that's 5 former champions that Poatan's beat. So that's pretty impressive, man. That is pretty impressive, and especially in the time frame that he did it in. I think we got to start giving Alex Pereira some credit for doing that in such a short amount of time and beating some pretty good champions. Anyway, on to number 12. At number 12, I have Kamaru Usman. Very, very good welterweight. 5 title defenses. Very impressive. I think for any modern UFC fighter to get over 3 defenses on their belt is very impressive, and I think we can talk about them being in the top 30 all time. But yeah, Kamaru Usman, 5 title defense is very impressive. I think the reason why it's very impressive for modern day fighters to get 5 title defenses is because the level of competition is very high. It's much higher than it was compared to the 2000s and the 90s and the early 2010s and stuff. So that's why I rate some of the other guys, some of the current guys, higher than some of the old heads, just because the level of competition is way harder. And I think the sport just naturally evolves to where the current guys are just better than the old guys. But anyway, yeah, 5 title defenses, and has a very good resume as well. Colby Covington twice. Colby Covington is kind of washed now, but Colby Covington was very good back then. Beat Masvidal twice as well. Gilbert Burns, Tyron Woodley, prime Tyron Woodley. It's a very good win. Schooled Tyron Woodley, by the way. So he did in impressive fashion as well. Beat RDA, beat Damian Maia, beat Leon Edwards and Sean Strickland. Leon Edwards and Sean Strickland, those were early wins, but they do age well, so I'll count them here. And also doesn't have a lot of losses, right? Doesn't have a lot of losses. And the times he did lose, he didn't lose badly, right? The second Leon fight, he was winning. Kamaru Usman was winning the fight. Then Leon Edwards fluked a head kick and won that one. Second Leon Edwards fight was a very close fight. I think that was actually a split decision win for Leon Edwards, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go check that up now. But yeah, so it was a very close fight the third time with Leon Edwards. I give it to Edwards, but yeah, I think it's close. And then obviously the Khamzat fight, I thought that was a draw. I think the first round was a 10-8 for Khamzat, then Usman won the following 2 rounds. So, with a fluke, so he lost to a guy by fluke, right? Pretty much, comeback, knockout, fluke, whatever you want to call it. Then the second time he lost was a very close decision, and the third time he lost was a robbery. I'm gonna say it was a robbery. It should have been a draw. Usman, very good, very dominant, and yeah, I rate him very highly. On to the next fighter at number 11. At number 11, I have Jose Aldo. Look, man, I really wanted to put Aldo higher, but I just think these other guys are better, right? I really wanted to put him top 10, but I think as we get, as more guys start coming up, I think Aldo just starts to fade away even more. Don't get me wrong, he has a pretty good resume, right? Marlon Vera at bantamweight, probably not the best example, but decent win at bantamweight. Moicano, Frankie Edgar, Chad Mendes, those are very good wins. TKZ, Faber, Swanson, Stephens.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Some decent featherweight wins, some good wins there. But I just think the guys high on this list do have better wins, and Jose Aldo does have quite a few losses, right? Like 9 losses is kind of a lot. Like it's not that much, right? Like if we look at some of these other guys, they have really a lot of losses. But yeah, I mean, I do count wins more than losses, and Aldo has a decent resume, but I just think the guys high on this list have a better resume. Yeah, but then I also have seen some people put Aldo like below top 15. Like that's freaking stupid in my opinion. Like I think Aldo has to be top 15, probably top 10. But I think Aldo just misses top 10. I think, dude, it's tough. It's tough. Him and like Aldo and the guy I have at 10 are like neck and neck. I've switched them multiple times, but you know, Jose Aldo, 7 title defenses on his long title reign, very impressive. Obviously, 2-time featherweight champion. So I rate Aldo very highly. On to the next one. Cracking the top 10, I have Stipe Miocic. Recently lost to John Jones. I picked John Jones like an absolute idiot. I picked Stipe because I was an absolute idiot. But Stipe is still very good, even though he lost to John Jones. Beat Daniel Cormier twice. I have Daniel Cormier very high on this list. Schooled Francis Ngannou. Beat JDS, former champion. Beat Alistair Overeem, very good win. Beat Fabricio Verdum. Verdum's very good. Verdum almost made my top 30. Beat Andrei Arlovsky and beat Mark Hunt. So, pretty good wins for Stipe, right? Like, very good heavyweight resume. Quite a few former champions in there. And, yeah, got 4 defenses at heavyweight. 2-time champ. It's very hard to get title defenses at heavyweight. So, good on Stipe for doing that. And, yeah, I mean, I see some people put Stipe at, like, 15 and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I think Stipe needs to be given more respect. Because he has a very good heavyweight resume, right? Like Ngannou, DC, JDS, Overeem, Verdum. That's very good from Stipe, and you know I think people got to start giving him respect. Also doesn't have a lot of losses, right? Like 5 losses, not too bad. 20 wins, not a bad record. And yeah, I have Stipe at 10. On to my number 9. At number 9, I have the most polarizing person to rank on a GOAT list, and that is Khabib Nurmagomedov, dude. Some people will not include him in their top 15 or top 10, and some people will kill you if you don't put him if you don't put him in your top 5. So yeah, I have him at number 9. I think that's pretty fair. You know, I think that's pretty solid. Khabib at number 9, like, has a pretty decent resume, right? Obviously Gaethje, Poirier, McGregor. Also beat RDA, Edson Barboza, and Michael Johnson. So, some good wins apart from Gaethje, Poirier, and McGregor, right? And also, dominance, dude. This guy was extremely dominant. Most 10-8 rounds in UFC history, right? Pretty much perfect career, 29-0. Barely lost any rounds. Like, he did lose a few rounds. Like, some people say, oh, he lost no rounds. Did lose a few rounds, but I still think Khabib very good, very dominant, and that's why he's up here, man. He was just dominant, right? I think the reason why he's not higher is obviously the lack of title defenses, right? I think he retired way too early. I respect his reasons for retiring, but I mean, I feel like to be higher, he just needed to do more, right? Like, 3 defenses at lightweight is impressive, but if you compare it to other guys on this list with like 9, 10, 11 defenses, you know, I think you got to rank those guys a little bit higher than Khabib, because those guys also have a slightly better resume than Khabib, right? Like, Khabib didn't really fight anyone who was like a tough matchup for him, right? Like, he was pretty much the favorite in all of his fights, right? Like, and apart from these notable wins that I have on screen, like, he beat freaking no one, dude. He beat absolute freaking tomato can bums, dude. Like, the people he's beating before this had like twice as many losses as they did wins. Like, these are the only good wins that Khabib has. Like, apart from this, I cannot name a single person that Khabib beat. So, I think in order to go high on the GOAT list, he should have, obviously not retired so early. Again, I respect his reasoning, but still, I think he needed to do more to be higher on this list. So, anyway, that's where I have Khabib. I think it's a pretty safe spot to have him, I'll still probably get some freaking Dagestani glazes in the comments and some freaking Dagestani haters in the comments saying I should put him high or low or whatever. But anyway, on to number 8. Number 8, I have Islam Makhachev. There's no question that Islam's better than Khabib, right? Like, they both have the same number of title defenses, and Islam's wins are just way better, right? Like, beating Volk twice is more impressive than beating Poirier or a freaking drunk version of Conor McGregor. Like Islam beat Volk when Volk was the pound-for-pound number 1 in the world, right? Like, obviously, the first fight was very close. First fight was very, very close. I give it to Islam, though. I think that was a decently clear 3-2 Islam, right? Like, I would definitely not call that a robbery. But, yeah, it was a close fight. And then the second time, he knocked out Volk. The second time wasn't short notice, so, it's not as impressive as knocking out Volk on a full count, but I think knocking out Volk is still impressive, any way you do it. Also beat Arman Tsarukyan, Dan Hooker, Drew Dober, and Bobby Green. So, a couple other good names at lightweight, but, man, dude, like, Volk twice, a good version of Oliveira. Like, some of these guys beat, like, Oliveira when he was freaking getting injured every fight. But, no, Islam beat a good version of Oliveira. Yeah, that really had to say. But, yeah. Also beat Dustin Poirier. Arguably beat Dustin Poirier in more impressive fashion than Khabib did. Like, I know Khabib finished him earlier, but you have to realize Islam had staff, and Islam also, like, there weren't any moments in the Islam-Poirier fight where you're like, oh, flip, dude, like, Islam might actually get finished here. Like, in the Khabib fight, Poirier had that really good guillotine on Khabib. So, yeah, I think Islam is definitely better than Khabib, and I think very good as his own fighter. Some very, very good wins. Obviously, Volk, Poirier, Oliveira, going to be his 3 best wins. Also beat some pretty good contenders at lightweight. But yeah, that's where I have Islam Makhachev. On to number 7. At number 7, probably my most controversial thing yet, and that is Max Holloway, dude. Yes, I know he has a lot of losses, but he look at his resume. Look at his like, one of the best resumes of all time, dude. Beat Justin Gaethje, right? Justin Gaethje coming off the head kick KO against Dustin Poirier. Absolutely slept TKZ. Schooled Arnold Allen. Beat Yair Rodriguez. Beat Frankie Edgar. Beat Brian Ortega. Beat Jose Aldo twice. Finished Jose Aldo twice. Very, very impressive. Obviously, Jose Aldo, former featherweight GOAT, in my opinion. Beat Anthony Pettis, former champion. Beat Charles Oliveira. Wasn't injury loss to Oliveira, so it doesn't count as much. Beat Cub Swanson, Jeremy Stephens. And
who the fuck is that guy?
Calvin Keita. So, yeah, I mean, when you talk about clearing out a division, I think Max Holloway is probably the best example of this. He beat, like, freaking everyone at featherweight, dude. He beat absolutely everyone at featherweight except for Volk and Poirier and McGregor. But, like, when he fought McGregor, he was a freaking... Max Holloway was still in nappies.
I'm in the UFC since he's in nappies.
When he fought Conor McGregor, so I don't really count that one too much. But yeah, Max Holloway, obviously 3 defenses at featherweight. Like, people are probably gonna murder me for having him above Khabib, but he does have a better resume than Khabib, objectively, right? Same number of title defenses. And, Khabib was undefeated, so I think that is a case that you could make for Khabib being over Holloway. But I think the level of competition Holloway fought, his resume, and his, all the rest of the stuff he has, obviously BMF champion as well, if you want to count that towards his legacy, I think he's above Khabib. He was pretty much cleared out featherweight, and the losses he has aren't that bad, right? Like, the first fight to Volk was decently close. I'd give that to Volk. Obviously, I think it was pretty clear for Volk. The second fight with Volk was like it could have gone. That fight could have gone either way, and obviously the third fight with Volk won fair and square. But yeah, and then also to Dustin Poirier, right? Like the second Dustin Poirier fight was very close. I do think it was clear for Poirier, but Max put up a good fight there. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't short notice. I don't know if it wasn't short notice, but yeah, I rate Holloway very, very highly. Very impressive fighter, and I think Holloway deserves more respect. I think you gotta have Holloway in your top 10, and I think Holloway is above Khabib all time. People are probably gonna freak out when they see that, but I think it's objectively the truth. Go cry about it in the comments. But anyway, on to number 6. At number 6, I have Alexander Volkanovski. I'm not gonna lie, I almost put Max over Volk. I almost put Max over Volk. In Bunkbed's video, Bunkbed put Max over Volk, but I mean, dude, I don't know if I can, dude. I don't think I can. I mean, if you beat a guy 3 times, I don't know if you can put that guy above him on the GOAT list, right? Like, Volk beat Holloway 3 times, like, and that is kind of carrying Volk, but it's still very impressive. Like, beating Max Holloway 3 times, insane. Like as I mentioned, the first time, close fight, but I think it was clear for Volk, right? Second fight could have gone either way, and third fight, Volk absolutely schooled Max Holloway, right? Like, one of the best performances in UFC history. I think it's up there with McGregor and Alvarez, right? Like, McGregor absolutely schooled Alvarez. Like, that's one of the reasons I have McGregor so high. It's because, like, the people McGregor beat, all right, he did it in impressive fashion. I know this, I'm kind of just talking about Conor McGregor now, but back to Volk, right? And, 5 title defenses, modern era, very, very good, right? Obviously, 2 of those were against Holloway. One of those was to Yair Rodriguez, beat TKZ, beat Jose Aldo, beat Chad Mendes, and beat Brian Ortega. So, fought some pretty tough competition, right? All the top contenders at featherweight. Fought harder fights than Khabib, right? Like, Ortega matching up against Volk. Like, Ortega's a harder matchup for Volk than freaking Poirier or McGregor is for Khabib. So, I think that win is more impressive. Beating, Ortega obviously isn't better all time than Poirier or Volk, but Poirier and McGregor, but I still think that's a very impressive win. And I also think, you got to factor in, like, going up a division as a huge underdog and putting up a very close fight with the current champion. Like, I think you got to give that credit in itself, because that is very impressive, right? Like, he was so close to beating Islam Makhachev, and, like, we all view Makhachev as unbeatable, and Volk nearly finished Islam in, like, the 5th round, at the end of the 5th round when he was landing ground and pounding Islam. So, credit to Volk, right? Very impressive. Obviously, 5 defenses in the modern age. That's crazy, dude. So, Volk, I have at 6, and on to number 5. Cracking the top 5 is Anderson Silva. 10 title defenses, 16 fight win streak, the longest win streak in UFC history. That's mad. That in itself is just insane. And he has a pretty good resume as well, right? Like, Derek Brunson, Stephen Bonner, those aren't great wins, but they're still pretty good. Chael Sonnen twice, that's pretty good. Vitor Belfort, pretty good. Damian Maia, Forrest Griffin, Dan Henderson, Rich Franklin twice. So, decent resume from Anderson Silva, right? Like, but I think the stuff that really gets him up here is his really long win streak and his 10 title defenses and his skill. I mean, when Anderson Silva was, like, pound for pound king, Anderson Silva was freaking putting it on guys. Like, Anderson Silva was just insanely skilled. I think Anderson Silva was ahead of his time, and I think Anderson Silva is probably one of the best strikers all time. His striking was very good. He was winning fights so easily, right? He was just dominating everyone when he was on his run. The reason I don't have him higher is, well, there's two reasons I don't have him higher. One, he does kind of have a lot of losses, right? Did go on a little bit of a loss streak, you know. It's not the best look for Anderson Silva there, right? The loss streak. And he also took steroids. Like, I would have him above the next guy if Anderson Silva was a clean athlete, but Anderson Silva took steroids, and, you know, for that, I got to take him back a couple spots. I do have to take Anderson Silva back a couple spots because he did take steroids, but I still think he's a middleweight GOAT, right? Like, you know, Izzy definitely took steroids. You don't randomly grow breasts in your 30s. But anyway, yeah. So, Anderson Silva, very good, very dominant in his time. Just unfortunately went on a loss streak and did take steroids, so have to bump it back a little bit. But anyway, on to number 4. At number 4, I have Daniel Cormier. Dude, people need to start giving this guy more respect. People need to give DC more respect. This is probably a hot take putting DC this high, but DC was very good, right? Double champion, 3 defenses at light heavyweight, 1 defense at heavyweight, you know. Defending both belts, you know, being a double champion simultaneously and defending both belts, already very impressive. Add to that a very good resume, right? Like, beat Derek Lewis, Stipe Miocic, heavyweight GOAT, Volkan Oezdemir, Rumble Johnson twice, Anderson Silva, the middleweight GOAT. Not a good version of Anderson Silva by any means, but still a win over Silva, so that's going to count a little bit. You know, wouldn't count as much as if Silva was, you know, good at the time. Beat Gustafsson, very good. Dan Henderson, very good. Frank Mir and Chris Barnett. So DC is very solid, very, very good resume. You know, obviously double champ and heavyweight champ as well. And I think, like, one of the things you gotta appreciate about Daniel Cormier is, like, you know, some of these other guys waited to become double champ. Like, you know, John Jones and GSP, like GSP didn't fight Anderson Silva, and John Jones didn't fight Stipe or Francis Ngannou to become double champ. Stipe just, I mean, what am I saying? Cormier just said screw it and fought Stipe. And at the time, Stipe was the heavyweight GOAT. He had the most title defenses, the most title wins at heavyweight, right? Like, Stipe was the heavyweight GOAT at the time. DC was like, screw this, I'm gonna go fight Stipe. And beat Stipe. I'm pretty sure he knocked Stipe out. So that's very impressive from DC. Obviously, Stipe did avenge that loss, but still very good on DC for that. And also, yeah. So, like, all in all, I think when you consider all the things about DC, right? Like, light heavyweight champion with 3 defenses, simultaneously the heavyweight champion with 1 defense, right? Beat the GOATs of the division above him to get his double champ status, and add to that a pretty stacked resume as well. Beat a lot of champions, beat a lot of good fighters. I think his resume is better than Anderson Silva, and he's also a clean athlete, right? Like, he didn't fail a drug test like Anderson Silva did, so I think he's above Silva for that. And anyway, on to number 3. Cracking the top 3, we have Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. I did consider putting DC over him, but I mean, I couldn't, man. I couldn't. 11 title defenses for Mighty Mouse. Are you kidding me, dude? 11 consecutive title defenses. That is insane. Mighty Mouse just had the perfect career, man. Like, retired at the perfect time, right? You know, wasn't washed or anything like that. You know, during the UFC, very good career. Pretty much only lost twice. Like, one of them was in the wrong weight division to Dominic Cruz, and the second was a very, very close fight with Henry Cejudo. I think DJ won that fight, but yeah, again, it could have gone either way. But still, it has some very good wins. So, beat Ray Borg, Wilson Reyes, Tim Elliott, Henry Cejudo the first time, Dodson twice, Benavidez twice, and Horiguchi. So, you know, your decent resume, right, did just wipe out the flyweight division. I would put him higher, but it's just, you know, I think the guys above him just have a better resume. I think flyweight at the time just wasn't that good, and it's not DJ's fault, right? But I still think, man, he's up here, man. He's up here. 11 title defenses, dominant, and the most skilled fighter of all time, in my opinion. Like, he had very good striking, very good wrestling, very good jiu-jitsu, right? Like, he was just, like, I think bedtime MMA had a very good, like, analogy for this. Like, bedtime said that DJ was just hitting trick shots on random flyweights, and it is very funny, and it's also true, dude. Like, with I think it was with Ray Borg, he suplexed Ray Borg and got Ray Borg in an armbar at the same time. Like, how the hell do you do that? Like, that's just insane from DJ. Insane skill, insane dominance, insane title defenses. So for that, I gotta rate DJ. Resume, not the best resume, still not a bad resume. Decent resume. But yeah, DJ, I have number 3. On to number 2. Number 2, I have Jonathan Jones. He would be the GOAT, but he took steroids. He failed 4 drug tests. I cannot put you as the GOAT of the sport if you took steroids and you're just you're a cheater. Jon Jones is a cheater, and that's why I don't have him as the GOAT. But yeah, like, still insane resume. Very, very good resume from Jon Jones there. Cyril Gahn, Thiago Santos, Gustafsson twice, DC, OSP, Glover Teixeira, Chael Sonnen, Vitor Belfort, Rashad Evans, Lyoto Machida, Rampage Jackson, Shogun Rua, Ryan Bader, Stephan Bonner, and Stipe Miocic. So, like, that's just insane. That's just insane. Undoubtedly, like, the best resume of all time, right? But when you consider some stuff, like, he did do it on steroids, had, like, a couple close fights in there, the first fight with Gus, and the fight with Thiago Santos was a split decision. If you'll notice that I didn't put Dominic Reyes on this list of notable wins, because I don't think he beat Dominic Reyes. You watch that fight, I think that was a clear 3-2 for Dominic Reyes. That was clear for Dominic Reyes. I don't know how all 3 judges scored it for Jon Jones. Yeah, like, on paper, Jon Jones has a pretty good record, right? Like, only 1 loss, and that loss was from, just illegal strikes. But, we all, I think everyone, no one counts Jon's, like, actual loss on paper as a loss, but everyone counts the Dominic Reyes fight as a loss. And I'm not gonna put his record as 28 or 27-2, because I thought Dominic Reyes won. Like, we are still going on the records on paper, but
I just didn't show up, and Jon Jones is beatable. He's not that good.
I'm just not gonna put Dominic Reyes as a notable win for Jon Jones. But yeah, still, like, Jon Jones, still some very impressive stuff. Like, the most title wins, obviously 11 title defenses, two division champion, right? Like, didn't beat the best guy to get his second belt, but ducking, now he's ducking the interim champion in Tom Aspinall. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I've Jonathan Jones down here for now. He would be the GOAT, but he took steroids and is just a scumbag, and I just would not want to put him as the GOAT. But yeah, anyway, now onto the one that you've all been waiting for. The person that I think is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, the greatest UFC fighter of all time. It is Georges St-Pierre, ladies and gentlemen. Perfect career. Only had 2 losses, avenged both of them in dominant fashion. 9 title defenses of his welterweight belt, right? Middleweight champion as well. Beat some pretty good guys as well. Has a very good resume of himself. I think probably the second best resume of all time behind Jon Jones, right? Beat Michael Bisping, Johnny Hendricks. I give the fight to GSP, right? It was a close fight, but I give it to GSP. Beat Nick Diaz. Yeah, it was Nick Diaz. Carlos Condit, Josh Koscheck, Thiago Alves, BJ Penn twice, Matt Serra, Matt Hughes twice, Sean Sherk, Frank Trigg, and Jake Shields. So some very good wins from George St. Pierre. Cleared out his division, man. And I think he had the perfect career, right? Like, double champion. Yes, he didn't beat the best guy at middleweight to get his second belt. Like, Michael Bisping is solid, but like he's definitely not the best champion in middleweight. Although I do think like beating Bisping is better than beating Cyril Gahn to get a second belt. So yeah, dude, George St. Pierre, perfect career, very good accomplishments in the sport, very skilled as well. You know, had very good grappling, very good striking, and has a very good resume. Beat guys in pretty impressive fashion, right? Like, the only close decision he had pretty much was the Johnny Hendricks fight. But still, George St. Pierre, the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, I think, by a pretty wide margin, right? Like, you know, did it drug-free. Like, GSP beat guys who were on steroids without being on steroids himself, right? So that's pretty impressive. Insanely skilled, insane resume, insane accomplishments. So George St. Pierre, he's the GOAT of mixed martial arts. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. If you watched the whole thing, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Obviously, this video is quite long, so I appreciate your time. Anyway, yeah, tell me who you guys think the GOAT is. What did you guys think of my list? You know, did you like it? Did you not like it? What would you change? What did you agree with and stuff like that? So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all of that stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.